Many older individuals believe that relying on their children for support is completely natural and nothing to be ashamed of. Before we begin, if you find this video valuable, please like it. Your support helps spread awareness about aging gracefully. If you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future videos. If you enjoy this video, comment 1, and if you think there's room for improvement, comment 0 so I can create better content for you. Now, let's dive into today's discussion. When children take good care of their aging parents, it reflects their success and sense of responsibility. Having the opportunity to stay with their children is something many elderly parents feel proud of. Living with family ensures they have meals prepared and someone to look after them. However, placing complete dependence on children can sometimes lead to unexpected challenges. Many real-life cases show that relying entirely on one's children for old age security may not be the best option. Instead, maintaining self-sufficiency can be more beneficial. Take the story of Ms. Lon, a 5-year-old woman who faced a life-altering illness 2 years ago. This experience opened her eyes to the realities of aging, making her rethink her future. Instead of leaning on her children, she made a crucial decision to protect 3 key aspects of her life. But what led her to this conclusion? Why did she find relying on her children ineffective and even detrimental? Let's listen to her story to gain a better understanding. Miss Lan, now 73 years old, lost her husband 13 years ago. Before his passing, they had built a beautiful life together, raising 2 sons and a daughter who had all grown up to establish successful careers in the city. However, life took an unexpected turn. 5 years after retirement, her husband was tragically killed in a car accident. Suddenly, she found herself alone in an empty house. Initially, she believed she was in good health and capable of looking after herself with her pension. Her late husband had also saved some money, and the individual responsible for the accident compensated her with a settlement. In total, she had about 500 million VND, which seemed like a reasonable amount for old age security. However, as time passed, she felt uneasy. No matter how much money she had, living alone felt meaningless. She started wondering if there was a better way to spend her remaining years. Many people advised her to use her savings for leisure, traveling, dining out, shopping, or hiring household help. But she felt that these things didn't truly give her a sense of belonging. Her children, whom she had always prioritized, turned out to be less considerate than she had imagined. She realized that as long as she had resources, they were warm and welcoming, but when she needed emotional support, things were different. Initially, her children suggested she divide her time among their homes, 5 months at each son's house and 2 months at her daughter's. She was led to believe that she could stay as long as she wanted and that her comfort would be their priority. However, after living with them for a while, she discovered that this arrangement did not bring her the peace and joy she had hoped for. Despite their invitations, living in her children's homes made her feel like an outsider. Her son-in-law was polite but distant, making her feel like a guest rather than family. When she moved in with her elder son, her daughter-in-law expected her to take on many household chores. At first, her son gave her a monthly allowance to cover expenses, but soon he started complaining that her pension was too high and asked her to contribute more. She agreed, thinking it was a reasonable request, but gradually the financial support stopped altogether, and she found herself covering all her personal expenses. When she moved to her younger son's house, things weren't any better. Her younger son cleverly manipulated her into giving him money, claiming he needed it for an investment project. Having already spent much of her savings while living with her elder son, she no longer had enough to contribute. This led to disappointment and resentment from her younger son, who then insisted she sell her house since she hardly stayed there. The pressure to sell her home grew stronger. Both her sons tried to convince her that selling the house would provide financial security for the entire family. They argued that if she had money, she could share it with them, making life easier for everyone. However, Ms. Lan knew better. Her late husband had once suggested selling the house to move in with their sons, but she had never agreed. That home was built with years of hard work, love, and sacrifice. Selling it would mean losing her last refuge. Determined to hold on to her independence, she firmly refused their requests. To pacify them, she gave each son 50 million VND and claimed that was all she had left. This tactic worked, and they stopped pressuring her to sell the house. She thought she had finally secured peace, but a major health scare changed everything. 3 years ago, she suffered a severe stroke after a fall. During her recovery, she gained even more clarity about her situation. While she had initially believed that her children would always be there for her, reality painted a different picture. They were not as selfless as she had once thought. In her moment of need, she realized that she could not depend on them for her well-being. This incident made her more determined to protect three essential aspects of her life: her financial independence, her home, and her dignity. She decided to make conscious choices that allowed her to live on her own terms rather than waiting for her children's approval. Instead of spending all her savings on them, she chose to invest in her health, maintain her home, and build a strong social circle of friends her age. Her story serves as a valuable lesson for elderly individuals. While family bonds are important, self-reliance is equally crucial. Aging gracefully does not mean completely surrendering to one's children's decisions. It means making thoughtful choices to ensure a secure, fulfilling, and independent life. Many elderly individuals struggle with the decision of whether to live alone or with their children. While each situation is different, Ms. Lan's experience sheds light on the importance of maintaining personal independence. Relying solely on children can lead to disappointment and challenges that may not have been anticipated. A balanced approach, where one stays connected with family while also securing financial and emotional stability, is key to a happy old age. If you found Ms. Lan's story insightful, don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback helps create better content. A stroke struck her suddenly, leaving her unable to move as she once did. Fortunately, a kind passerby rushed her to the hospital just in time, ensuring she received the necessary medical attention. However, her life took a drastic turn. Her mobility was limited, she struggled to use her limbs, and everyday tasks became insurmountable challenges. This new reality meant she required constant care and support from those around her. As time passed, she noticed a heartbreaking shift in the behavior of her family. The children she had once raised with unwavering love and devotion began to see her as a burden. Her son and daughter-in-law, who had initially been concerned about her well-being, grew increasingly frustrated with her dependence. They often expressed their discontent, making her feel unwelcome in her own home. Criticism and complaints became a daily occurrence, adding emotional distress to her already fragile state. The doctor advised her to prioritize rest and self-care to aid in her recovery. However, the environment in her son's home was anything but conducive to healing. The constant scolding and negativity weighed heavily on her, possibly exacerbating her health issues. It was not long before her children suggested an alternative. They wanted to send her to a nursing home. The idea of living in such a place filled her with dread. It felt more like confinement than care, stripping her of the freedom she had cherished all her life. Unwilling to accept this fate, she made a bold decision. She resolved to return to her hometown, hire a helper, and live independently. Initially, her children opposed the idea, questioning whether she could manage on her own. However, when they realized that living alone wouldn't require significant financial support from them, they reluctantly agreed. Much to everyone's surprise, her health began to improve shortly after her return. Within a year, She regained much of her mobility, could walk without assistance, and even managed to handle light household chores. Reflecting on her choices, she realized that holding on to her home and savings had been a wise decision. Had she surrendered everything to her children, she would have found herself in a situation where she had no choice but to tolerate their complaints or be forced into a nursing home. If you are still watching this video and find these insights valuable, please comment below to let me know. I appreciate your time and engagement. After this life-altering experience, she came to a profound realization. One should not rely solely on their children in old age. Instead, there are 5 crucial ways to protect oneself. First, maintaining good health is paramount. One's well-being should always be a priority, as staying physically and mentally fit ensures independence. Second, securing personal assets and a steady pension is essential. Financial stability allows one to live without having to depend on children for daily needs. Third, retaining ownership of property and savings is crucial. Handing everything over to children too soon may leave parents vulnerable. Fourth, rather than working endlessly for children's comfort, it is better to take time for oneself, travel, relax, and enjoy life. Fifth, true security in old age comes from self-reliance. While love and support from children are meaningful, ensuring personal independence brings a greater sense of fulfillment. These principles not only granted her a content and peaceful old age, but also relieved her children from the burden of caring for her. Contrary to the belief that living with one's children guarantees happiness, she found that staying in her own home allowed her to live life on her own terms. If you are young, take this as a lesson. Prepare early, gain experience, and secure your future. Even if you find yourself alone in old age, life can still be meaningful and enjoyable. Money, in particular, holds great significance in later years. Financial independence is the key to dignity and respect. If parents have wealth, they should use it for their own well-being and plan their inheritance wisely. Giving away assets while still alive can lead to unforeseen hardships. There have been many unfortunate cases where elderly parents, out of love and trust, transferred ownership of their home to their children, only to end up being treated as mere tenants. To avoid such predicaments, it is crucial to have a fallback plan. Assets should be used as a means to ensure comfort and security in later years, rather than being prematurely handed over to children. Wise individuals recognize the importance of holding on to their resources until they near the end of their lives. This approach not only prevents children from squandering their inheritance, but also guarantees that the elderly have enough to support themselves if their children turn out to be ungrateful. It is an unfortunate truth that respect often follows financial stability. Children who know their parents have resources tend to show greater consideration and care. In families with multiple children, it is common for elderly parents to dedicate their entire lives to supporting them, often leaving nothing for themselves. In affluent households, some children may even feign attentiveness toward their parents, solely to secure a larger share of the inheritance. However, true filial piety should not be motivated by financial incentives. For a peaceful and fulfilling old age, parents must ensure that they retain control over their financial assets. This guarantees they can maintain a comfortable lifestyle without feeling like a burden on their children. Another important consideration is avoiding unnecessary conflicts by not living with children. One such case is that of an elderly woman who, despite having 4 sons and 2 daughters, found herself struggling in her later years. During her youth, she worked tirelessly to raise her children, expecting that they would support her in old age. However, as she grew older, her sons were reluctant to take responsibility for her care. They took turns hosting her, but never wanted to commit to long-term caregiving. When she was bitten by a dog, While staying at her eldest son's house, she had to remain there for medical attention. However, the discomfort her presence caused the family was evident. She then moved to her second and third sons' homes, but each time she felt unwelcome. When staying with them, she had to be cautious not to upset her daughters-in-law, making her life incredibly stressful. Despite her immense love for her children, their rivalry and reluctance to take responsibility left her feeling even more exhausted. Whenever she fell ill, she had to manage on her own, as none of her sons stepped up to truly care for her. On the other hand, her daughters genuinely wanted to help and tried multiple times to bring her to their homes. However, her sons resisted, fearing societal judgment. This left her in a difficult situation, trapped between her desire for care and the cultural pressures that discouraged her sons from allowing her to live with her daughters. Her story serves as a poignant reminder that relying on children for security in old age is not always a viable plan. Instead, one must take proactive steps to ensure their own comfort, stability, and dignity. Financial independence, personal well-being, and a well-thought-out plan for the future are the pillars of a fulfilling life in one's later years. If you found these insights valuable, take a moment to reflect on how you can prepare for your future. It is never too early to plan for a secure, independent, and meaningful old age. Many families struggle with the challenge of caring for their elderly parents. Some children wish to provide the best care possible, but obligations and lifestyle constraints make it difficult. In such cases, elderly parents may hesitate to live with their children, fearing they will become a burden. A mother in her 70s, for example, finds herself in this predicament. She wants to stay with her children, but she is aware that doing so might disrupt their lives. She also fears that choosing a retirement home would make her appear ungrateful. Her inner conflict stems from her pride and reluctance to accept reality. Because of such concerns, elderly individuals should reconsider moving in with their children after retirement. While the intention behind it is noble, it might not yield the best results. The truth is that different generations living under the same roof often face conflicts due to differences in values and lifestyles. Setting personal boundaries can sometimes lead to a more harmonious relationship, rather than living together and facing constant friction. Instead of finding comfort, elderly parents may experience unintentional neglect, complaints, or a lack of appreciation from their children. For a peaceful and fulfilling old age, it is better for elderly individuals to maintain their independence, visit their children when necessary, and offer help only when truly needed. They should focus on their well-being rather than exhausting themselves with household responsibilities. In today's world, many retirees continue working to supplement their income, often using their earnings to support their children or settle debts. Some parents not only take up part-time jobs, but also handle household chores, leaving little time for themselves. This is a mistake, as their primary responsibility after retirement should be to take care of their own health and well-being. Overworking after retirement can be detrimental. If elderly individuals sacrifice their health by constantly working, they may soon find themselves physically unwell. No matter how much money is earned, it will never be enough if one's health deteriorates, leading to high medical expenses. Therefore, rather than focusing on accumulating wealth for their children, they should prioritize their own self-care, engage in light exercise, and maintain a healthy lifestyle. Aging should not be seen as a decline, but as an opportunity to enjoy life at a different pace, free from excessive responsibilities. Let's reflect on a touching story. A mother watches as her daughter gets ready, adjusting her outfit and applying lip balm. "You look beautiful," the mother remarks, but she gently points out that the neckline is too deep. The daughter laughs and replies, "Times have changed, Mom." Her mother does not argue, but instead heads to the kitchen to prepare lunch. The daughter follows, picks up slices of watermelon, and teasingly asks, Aren't you afraid of smearing your lipstick?" She smiles and tells her mother about a special lipstick she got from Thailand. The mother is surprised, her eyes widening. "Really?" The daughter kisses her mother's cheek and says, "I'm heading out now, Mom." Over the years, the daughter has grown into a confident woman, beautiful not just in appearance, but in demeanor. She has a successful career and spends her free time shopping, eating out, and enjoying life. Whenever she visits, she brings bags of clothes, makeup, and accessories, sometimes buying clothes for her mother too. However, the clothes rarely fit, and the fabric she gifts is often too short. Even so, her mother cherishes these gestures, appreciating the love behind them. Time passes, and the daughter becomes busy with work. Weeks go by without her visiting. Meanwhile, her mother, now retired, fills her days with simple routines, cooking, watering plants, and taking care of herself. Sometimes she gets tired and loses her appetite, choosing instead to sit by a small creek, watching the clouds drift by. She doesn't want to bother her daughter, but every week she receives small gifts, health supplements, fresh fruit, and sometimes a new outfit. She knows these gifts are her daughter's way of showing love. Then, after weeks apart, the daughter finally returns home. She hugs her mother tightly and says, "Mom, let me lie down for a bit, okay? Later, we can have dinner together. I love you so much." The mother smiles and asks, "Are you tired from work?" The daughter doesn't answer directly, so the mother suggests, "Let's lie down together." The daughter rests her head on her mother's arm and notices something. "Mom, you've lost so much weight," she says, concern filling her voice. She holds her mother's hand gently and, in a playful gesture, presses it against her lips, leaving a faint mark. At that moment, the daughter reassures herself that her mother is still the same, still young at heart. Though the world changes around them, their bond remains strong. The daughter has always enjoyed drinking ginger tea, a habit from childhood. Her mother would soak fresh ginger overnight and prepare it for her every morning. One day, she notices some leftover ginger water in a cup and, not wanting it to go to waste, she turns it into a jam by adding sugar. When the mother pours the jam into a sieve to cool, the daughter sneaks into the kitchen and starts eating it with her fingers, savoring its spicy, sweet taste. With a thoughtful expression, she says, "It's delicious, Mom. Spicy, sweet, a little bitter, just like life." If you're still watching this video and finding these insights meaningful, let me know by commenting below. Your time is valuable, and I appreciate you being here. Remember, aging is not about losing oneself. It's about embracing a new phase of life with wisdom, dignity, and love. Life has a way of teaching us lessons in the most unexpected ways. A mother once advised her daughter to drain the ginger properly while cooking. The daughter, feeling impatient, brushed off the advice. "Who taught you to talk like that?" the mother asked. "At your age, you should know better." The daughter dismissed her mother's old-fashioned ways, rolling her eyes at how she saved buttons from worn-out clothes, insisting they might be useful someday. "You're just old and silly," she laughed, but her mother only smiled and gently reminded her, "Wasting is a sin." The daughter scoffed. If that were true, a lot of people would have been punished by now. She was thinking of corrupt officials who misused public money and lived in luxury, yet seemed untouched by karma. Her mother, however, said nothing, just watching her with quiet understanding. For as long as she could remember, her mother had a small wooden box, polished over time, carefully locked away. The daughter had been curious about it since childhood, but every time she reached for it, her mother would say, "Not yet, you'll receive it when the time is right." After a few attempts, the daughter stopped trying. One morning, as she prepared to leave, her mother asked the usual question, "Will you be home for dinner?" Some days, in the rush of life, she would reply absent-mindedly, "I don't know." But that day, something in her mother's eyes seemed to long for reassurance. She sighed and said, "I'll come back. Make sure to cook rice and stuffed tomato soup. I've been craving it." Her mother's face lit up. Of course, and I'll bake some bread too. Remember not to eat from street vendors. It's unhygienic and expensive." The daughter, smiling slightly, started her bike and left. Throughout the day, a strange uneasiness settled over her. Anxiously, she kept checking the time, waiting for her last exam preparation session to end. At 6 p.m., she asked to leave early, eager to get home. Near the gate, she spotted a vendor selling fresh roses. On impulse, she bought a bunch, thinking they would make her mother happy. When she reached home, the house felt oddly quiet. Expecting to see her mother waiting as usual, she rushed to the kitchen. The meal had already been prepared, the rice cooker off, the tomato soup still warm on the stove. A cup of ginger tea sat on the table next to a plate of spinty ginger slices, her mother's usual remedy for cold evenings. But there was no sign of her mother. "Mom, where are you?" she called out, moving quickly towards the bedroom. There, on the bed, lay her mother, completely still. Panic surged through her as she shook her gently. Her mother's hand, which had been warm just that morning, was now cold. Trembling, the daughter called for an ambulance. The doctors confirmed her worst fear. A sudden spike in blood pressure had taken her mother away. She had arrived too late. The world seemed to spin as grief overtook her. How could this have happened? Just that morning, her mother had been smiling, planning dinner, reminding her not to eat from vendors, and now she was gone. Returning home in a daze, she entered her mother's room. Her gaze landed on the wooden box, the one her mother had guarded for years. With trembling hands, she picked it up, searching for the key. Inside, carefully stored, was a pink knitted scarf. She recognized it as one her mother had made for her long ago, one she had never worn because she found it unfashionable. Beneath it was a small sweater from her childhood, neatly embroidered with her name. A well-preserved notebook contained pages of her first attempts at writing, the letters shaky and uneven. And at the bottom of the box lay a golden necklace wrapped with a note, "For my daughter's future." Tears streamed down her face. This was her mother's legacy, not just the items, but the love, the memories, the silent sacrifices she had made. The mother she had once dismissed as old and silly had spent her entire life cherishing these little moments, holding on to the past that shaped their lives. Clutching the box to her chest, she whispered, "I will live well, Mom, I promise." Caring for aging parents is never easy. It requires patience, understanding, and at times enduring more than we think we can handle. Yet, as our parents grow older, the way we treat them reflects who we truly are. Honoring and taking care of them is not a burden, but the greatest expression of love and gratitude. Even if we cannot do everything perfectly, we must strive to do our best. Small acts of kindness, a warm meal, a listening ear, a heartfelt reassurance mean more than we realize. Because one day, when they are no longer there to ask, "Will you be home for dinner?" we will long for one more chance to say, "Yes, I will." Thank you for spending time with us today, reflecting on the depth of family bonds and the importance of cherishing every moment. Life is unpredictable, and the love we show today is the legacy we leave behind tomorrow. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What resonated most with you from today's story? What is one thing you will start doing differently in your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Elderly Hacks. Your support helps us continue creating content that inspires and guides us all in living a life filled with wisdom, gratitude, and love. Thank you for being a part of our community. See you in the next video.